I won't be putting my camera on because I've recovered from being in hospital for 2 months. I've had COVID. I didn't go in. I caught COVID in hospital. My carers come at 6 o'clock to get me ready for bed. And I don't want you to see you all have to look at me in my bedclothes. So I shan't be putting my bedclothes on.
So
no, my camera.
The meeting is now live. Good evening and welcome to the Leonardo Aggio Trust meeting. Before we can proceed with the agenda items, we will need to appoint a chair for the meeting. So please could I request a nomination for somebody to act as chair, please?
I'm happy to, Councillor Johnson has chaired this effectively over many years, so I'm happy to propose her.
Okay, do we have a seconder, please?
I'll second.
Thank you very much. Okay then, so Councillor Johnson, if you'd like to take the chair and proceed with the agenda items.
Thank you. I think because of COVID, we probably didn't meet last year, or if we did meet, there was some sort of problem. And we have been asking about the investments. Councillor Stafford is quite right, so that's outstanding business. I don't know, we did have a report at one stage. Councillor Stafford, is there something that you had last off legal? I think they asked us to sign bits of paper. Is that what you wanted to bring up as outstanding minutes from previous years?
Yeah, well, I just wondered what our legal standing was, given that we didn't meet last year, and therefore we didn't approve the accounts last year. We didn't look at the investments last year, and the papers that we have in front of us, unless I missed it, talk about this last financial year and not the financial year before that. So I was just wondering whether, if we're not going to discuss at this meeting, whether we need to have a separate meeting to look at the previous financial year, which we haven't looked at.
Sorry, my understanding is this is looking at the previous year, and the meeting coming up in April is to look at 2021.
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
Okay.
Okay, my apologies if I've not clocked that. Apologies. Sorry, but all the accounts that I can see here, so are for, so if I'm looking at the accounts, page 9 of 10 on the document, are all financial year 2021, and I don't think we've looked at financial year 1920.
You're correct. So at next meeting, we'll have to have those. Or shall we not approve these accounts till we have the meeting in April and do the 2 lots of years? Can I ask the officer?
Paul, could you comment on to whether you received, because there's been a bit of a transition. So previously, EMS were not overseeing the finances. So Paul, you might want to interject
yes.
here.
Okay, so my name is Paul Stewart. I'm the business manager for Ealing Music Service. About a year or so ago, I was asked, 18 months, I guess, I was asked to take over the some elements of the administration of the finances, as the person who was handling this from within the London of Ealing finance team was leaving, and at the time some materials were handed over to me, but how can I put it, I only have indirect access to materials. I'm not a named officer on any of the accounts, and indeed all of the statements that are delivered are sent through to officers or pigeonholes in Percival House, and I then have to try and obtain them as best I can. And that's essentially is where we are right now, in that I prepared a what I could see as the most cohesive set of accounts for the information that was available to me, covering the current financial year to date. I have some information relating to the previous year, but it's by no means complete.
Can I ask you, Paul? I'm sorry I didn't get everyone to introduce themselves. I doubt I would bet £100 there's no members of the public watching this, but would you like to all introduce yourself? I'm Yvonne Johnson, the Cabinet Member for Schools and Children's Services. Greg?
Councillor Greg Stafford, Hanger Hill, Leader of the Conservative Group.
Carlo? You're on mute, Carlo.
Hi, I'm Councillor Carlo Luswadby for Cleveland Ward, Labour Councillor.
Thank you. And Samantha, if you tell people who you are in case anybody is watching.
Yeah, I'm Samantha Spence, assistant head of Ealing Music Service.
And Paul, you're what did you say you were?
I'm the Business and Development Manager for Ealing Music Service.
Thank you very much. And Russell Dyer?
Oh, hi, Russell Dyer. I'm Assistant Director of Accountancy representing Finance.
Oh, thank you very much. So maybe you could answer Paul Stewart's question and tell us who the account holders were before. Do you know?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just sort of coming up to speed with this basically, but I just wanted to say that obviously I'm happy to work with Paul to try and bring the accounts up to date and any sort of governance up to date in terms of the finances.
So thank you. That's very kind. So maybe, Councillor Stafford, we get all of this, both officers working with whoever was in charge in the past, and bring an up-to-date set of accounts, which we won't approve until we see them in April. Would you be happy with that, Councillor Stafford? And
yes,
yeah?
I just think it'd be more sensible to do it that way around, rather than, I mean, the accounts for this year, as in this current financial year that's just about to end, look absolutely fine from my point of view, but we haven't seen the ones from the previous year.
No, you're right. We haven't. So this year's, we think they're all right, unless people have any questions, but we want to see the ones from the previous year, because I think it was when COVID first started and we cancelled all the meetings, and then we didn't start having them online till the summer. And so maybe this meeting got forgotten. So we'll do that at the one in April then, if people are happy. What's happened to the other man that used to come along, Samantha, to the
Yogesh Datani, the head of service?
Yeah.
He hasn't attended for the last few years. I've always attended his place for the last 4 years. So
2 years? No, we've seen him because we had arguments with him over. We wanted him to get the message out to a variety of schools, and I know Greg will back me up on that because it always seemed to be the same schools. So we did ask him to advertise it a bit more, and I know we have
which we did, but I've been attending the last few meetings in his place.
Okay.
I think the last one he attended was a few years ago.
Anyway,
sorry,
just
to the point of combining basically the next meeting to encompass both accounts. Obviously, the reason why this didn't happen last year was because quorum had to be reached, and I was advised that we couldn't do that if you weren't able to meet face to face. So all of the families and recipients or possible recipients of these awards haven't received anything and have been kind of put on hold for the best part of the year. So it would be really good in advance of the next meeting if Paul and Russell, you can confirm that you are able to bring forth last year's accounts, because I wouldn't want to have to delay it any further. And then there will be 2 lots of recommendations with regard to awards for 1920, which is present within this agenda, and for the outcome of the current auditions, which are coming up in a few weeks for the year 2021.
Okay, that's fine. And we don't want, I mean, obviously most schools have been shut for, I don't know, is it 96 days, and people haven't been able to go and do things or playing concerts, except for odd weeks in between the breaks between things. So it's all been messy. Who's going to go first? Is it you, Samantha, or?
Go first with...
well, I told you my agenda is on this machine and I can't do this. And
well, it's a bit of a moot point to do the recommendations, because these recommendations are for the year 1920, for which we don't have the accounts. So what I'm suggesting is that we bring that forward to the next meeting and then agree recommendations for both years of awards, 1920 and 2021. Okay,
so do we say that perhaps we set that date as soon as possible, or do you want it to be in April?
I think it's already been set, actually.
Yes. Well, I don't know anything about it because
the next meeting is scheduled for Monday the 19th of April.
Well, I'm hearing that for the first time. I'll write it down. Is it at 6 o'clock?
Yes, it is.
Can I request that it's on Teams?
We can certainly look into that, Councillor Johnson.
Yes, because I got Council and Joint put back on Teams because we all had trouble with Zoom. Right, okay.
Yvonne, sorry, I mean, apologies to interrupt again. And I'm just, again, this may be just me being a complete idiot and not understanding, but in the agenda that we had sent for this meeting, we had the item 8 trust awards recommendations, but then in the in the papers that we sent, there seemed to be no recommendations in the papers. Is that because you were presenting them separately, or?
I did send them in advance, so I was asked to submit the report.
Because then that was again confused me, because they're not actually in the papers.
And I'm confused, Greg, because people thought Binder was going to go instead of me because I'd been in hospital. But I said, this is a short meeting that I know quite well. And I didn't think it was going to be stretching my brain too much. So, Samantha, did you send them to committees?
I sent the reports to Linda Zimmerman.
Yeah, they were received and they have been published, but they are confidential because they have information on individuals included in them. So you should, as councillors, have access to both agenda packs, so the private pack and the public pack.
Well,
I couldn't find the private. I was looking for the same thing, Greg. I couldn't find any of the recommendations, but it may be that we were looking in the wrong place.
This could have been resolved. I mean, previously I had submitted them with names on. I've never sort of had any concerns.
No,
if they wanted them to be anonymous, then if they simply said, "Can you just submit them anonymously?" I would have done so quite easily. So going forward, if that's the case, that's not a problem. But it would have been able to be included in the pack then. Not a problem.
They've been written down all the many years I've been on this committee. As I said, it's only ever been us at these meetings. I can't see the point of it being live. It's not as if it's a very small amount of money that we give out each year. We give young people access to a violin. We help pay for singing lessons. It's not as if we're giving away millions. And I don't even.
No, but I think Samantha's right, Councillor Johnson, that we want to make sure that we can get these to the children, because obviously, as she said, they've missed out on a year. So I mean, we want to. What I'm really saying is, I suppose, is we want to ensure that those people who've been nominated for these awards get them as speedily as possible. And I do feel we're holding up the process here, but I think we have to, because I don't think. First of all, I apologise if I somehow haven't seen the awards, but I really couldn't find them. And second of all, we don't have the accounts from the previous year, so I think it'd be difficult for us to do that. And I think the final point, sorry to be a really final point, I just want from legal, I think for the next meeting, we need just an update from the legal department to check that the fact that we didn't hold a trustee meeting last year, what position that puts us in as trustees. Now, I know COVID will say because it was COVID, it was okay not to have held a meeting, but I just want the legal's opinion on that to make sure that we are covered.
I'm sure Helen would be more than happy to do this. So really, Samantha, we can't do anything because I don't have any papers because they were sent probably to Binder. I was sent some stuff, which is on this machine, which I could ask you to put up a shared screen perhaps, but as we don't do the accounts, I think we say goodbye to everybody and just reconvene. And it's obviously, we're reconvening on the 19th. Are we happy to do that? And that gives Paul and Russell time to sort out the finances. We'll get Helen to do the legal thing, and you can send us anonymized, and you can send us the names, the ones with the names.
Absolutely fine.
Because I'll tell you why I like to see the names. Because we want to see that we're being as fair, diverse as possible. We aren't sending them. I used to recognise the same family, the same names year after year. And I know that's maybe because those families are very musical, but I like to see that we are reaching other children in other schools. And I know Greg used to feel the same.
What I can do, if you want, in addition to the general recommendations on the report, is I can actually state if any of them have previously been given an award and if they've come from school where children haven't had. I can go into that detail if you wish,
you don't
if that's
mind.
Something you're interested in. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah,
not
if you don't mind, because it does sometimes has looked, Carlo and Greg, as if sometimes some families and some children get one every year, and some people, because they know how to play the game, and I don't mean that in a rude way, they know how to apply. And then some schools we know.
Some schools, I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Never seem to know about it, and so we were trying to be as fair as possible. So if that's possible, Samantha, and that's not anything against the schools that are really good at pushing music. So we'll just all meet again. And
sorry, Yvonne, can I just ask a question?
No.
Are we clear, or is it absolutely certain that the names need to be, or the applications need to be anonymised? Can we not have? Is that a legal requirement, or because I remember last time we did it, we saw the names, didn't we? So
we did.
And I'm just wondering, could we just check that they need to be anonymised? If they do, then they should be. But I don't see if it's not necessary. Perhaps they need.
I agree. Yeah.
Before we break, I'd like to ask a question.
Go ahead, Paul.
Okay, with regard to preparing accounts for the previous financial year, as I said, I'm not confident that I have all of that information at the moment. Now, there are two sets of accounts that have to be looked at. The first is the BlackRock trust funds, and the second are the bank accounts. Now, the signatories for the bank accounts are London Borough of Ealing officers, so and who I have access to. Regarding to getting statements for the year prior for the trust funds, I expect we would need to return to BlackRock for that. Now, it's not entirely clear to me who what the process for that will be. I am aware that the authorised signatories for those trust funds are yourself, Yvonne, Gregory, and Councillor Stafford and Councillor Lusardi. So what I expect is, in consultation with Russell, is that I will contact BlackRock to ascertain what the procedure is for getting historical statements, and it may be that we will need to return to you for your to support your authorization of those requests.
I remember, and I think it's well before COVID, myself, probably Carlo and Greg, all had to bring in our passports and proof of who we were at one of these meetings for Helen Harris or somebody like that to check that we really were who we said we were. Now, that's a few years ago. I think that's us as trustees, but I can't remember how many years ago that was. And I think if you have any difficulty getting hold of BlackRock, I'm chair of the pension fund, and we've just moved a lot of our assets into the London CIV, and Bridget Uku, who's our pensions officer, might be the person to ask about who to speak to at BlackRock. I'm sure Bridget
that's very helpful.
Yeah, Bridget might have an idea, because we just got Bridget Uku, UKU, and she's the pensions officer in Ealing. I don't know. So Carlo and Greg, do you remember us having to bring in our passports and stuff and show them to Helen? So they have seen that we really are who we are and that we live where we say we live. So they've done all that. So just ask Helen about the legal side, and I'm sure we'll get it all sorted out. Because it's not as if it's millions. We do invest it so we get the best return, so that Samantha and the music service can help these children. So is that all right?
No, that's fine. I currently hold some of that documentation that you referred to. It's just the question of making sure that when we're asking questions about statements and so on, that they are we're going through a process which is authorised and recognised by BlackRock.
We understand that, and Bridget, I'm sure, would help you in that area. Is there anything else, Samantha, that you want us to do tonight? No. So if you find out if we have to have two sets of documents, and check with committees that they send us all the documents and tell us which ones we're working to. Is that all right? So I think we're all clear, are we? So the 19th of April till we all meet again. Thank you very much. Sorry if I was a bit grumpy at the beginning. It's because I couldn't get on. So I'm fed up with technology at the moment, but I'm back on my iPad, and I will practice with Zoom on my other machine, but such is life. But thank you very much, and thank you for your patience. Good night.